Mark Thompson here with SMNnews, sitting here with Chris Broderick from Active Defiance. How are we doing tonight?
Very good.
We're in Vegas.
Yeah.
What are you going to leave behind that you can't tell us about?
Well, I can't tell you.
Exactly. Good answer, man. So tell us a little bit about what you guys got going on right now.
Well, we're finishing up, I think, our fourth tour of Birth and the Burial, and we're going to end it in San Diego with Killswitch Engage, which is awesome. Then after that, you know, we're going to start, we've already started writing the next CD, but we're going to get more into that. We're going to start recording it and hopefully have it out by spring of next year.
That's a fast process.
Yeah. I mean, we put our heads to the grindstone and we make it happen. You know what I mean?
So what is the writing process like for you guys? Is it bits and pieces here and there, or how does it materialize?
No, you know, for me it all starts with a good idea, a good riff, you know, and I don't like to sit there and just accumulate pieces, parts, and then cram them together. I think that's a horrible way to write. I tend to think of writing as monothematic, which means that you start with an initial idea and you develop your next ideas and the way that the song is going to develop from that initial idea. You know, unless I want it just to take a left turn and musically go somewhere completely different. You know, that's the way I like to write.
I think it's kind of different than that. Musicians, schooled musicians kind of think in that kind of way, as opposed to people who are more self-taught. They kind of, let's jam things and figure it out. And
yeah. You know, I mean, obviously in college, you know, I was taught a lot of different song forms and studied a lot of different ways to expand your original motive and your original riffs. But at the end of the day, I think a great song really begins with just imagination. So when you hear the riff in your head, and then you can imagine the next part, how the next part's going to sound, that's when you're writing a really good song. So that's what I always hope to do when I'm writing, just to have that vision for where I want it to go.
Do you record, like if you sit down, well, let me ask this, do you practice every day?
Absolutely.
Do you record when you practice, and when you get that little lightning in a bottle? And
absolutely, right away. Like even before I can really play it that well, a lot of times I'll pull out the phone and video record myself playing it and then archive it for later, because I tend to like to dedicate my practice time, my warm-up time just for that, and then archive those riffs, you know, because inspiration will hit during those times. So I archive that riff and then I revisit it when I'm sitting down to write.
Right. When you write a riff, your riffs are not very chug on the E string and then bounce around on hip hop, you know, the third and fifth fret. You're more dynamic, more melodic in your phrasings and everything that you do. When you write a song, compose something, how long do you spend writing something and go, no, that's not right, and go back and have to add all your little fills in and all that?
To me, it's more of a, I mean, I don't know that I ever say that's not right. I say it needs this or it needs that, and then I'll add that stuff in, definitely. There's a song that I'm writing for the next CD that I was like, okay, this absolutely needs some sort of an intro, and I already have an idea in my mind of exactly how it's going to go and how it's going to lead into it, and you know, that kind of thinking is great. And then even once you get the song pretty well dialed in, a lot of times you want to make it so that it's not so much, you know, just very understandable. Like you do want that, I think, for the audience, but I think at the same time you want there to be some interesting twists and turns in a song. And so a lot of times that's what will happen next. So you know, if you write a typical song that's like a binary format, which would be like A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, or something like that, people are going to come, they're going to know what's coming up. Mm-hmm. You don't always want that, you know. So you can add in some bridges or some transitions that might take it somewhere slightly different.
It's interesting. I just, one of my favorite bands is Opeth, and I think Mike Blackerfeld is a great musician. Absolutely. And he says he writes for himself. He doesn't try to impress anybody else. It's just,
awesome.
Do you take that same approach, you think?
I do, but I think I am sometimes a little bit too concerned about what people think. I wish I were less that way, and I do write absolutely for myself, but at the end of the day, I'm always hoping people will like it, you know?
Which is true.
So.
And you grew up in Colorado?
Yeah.
In Denver.
Absolutely.
Are you a Broncos fan?
No. I mean, I would be if I were into football.
Not your thing.
No, I was until I was like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, somewhere around in there. And I just remember getting all upset one day because they lost. And I was like, why the hell am I emotionally invested in this team that doesn't benefit me in the least? So that's when I called it. And it's funny because to this day, my family still is. In fact, the day that we end this tour in San Diego, my brother flew out from Colorado to visit with my other brother who lives in San Diego to go to the Broncos
Thursday
game
night.
that is in San Diego that night. And then they're going to try and, hurry up and make it on over to the show that we're playing after that. But my family was always a Broncos.
They're diehards.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you would just kind of, did music kind of pull you away from that at all?
I can't remember the correlation in time, actually. I don't think it was music that made me make that decision. I think it was really just the point of why the hell am I emotionally invested with these people who,
they make millions of dollars.
They make millions of dollars, and it doesn't benefit me at all. So I was like, that's when I called it.
Which is interesting because you look at athletes now, there's a lot of political correctness and not correctness going on out there. The kneeling on during the national anthem.
Yeah, I hear about all that stuff, but I think I just think overall, whether he kneels or not kneels, I love his cause. I think it's the best cause in the world, and ultimately I think he's succeeding because he's brought a lot of attention to it. Love him or hate him for doing it. But I think there's also other ways that he could have approached it too. So
I think somebody with that kind of money should also be donating a lot of his money to those type causes instead of housing it for himself and having the big watches and everything else as well.
Yeah.
My belief.
Yeah, as long as it's, somebody's earnings are their earnings, and he does make a lot of money, but it doesn't mean because he makes a lot of money that he needs to donate to any cause. I think it's good. It's good that he would, but I think he should just do it out of any charitable endeavor. I don't know, I'm getting lost in my words, but I think ultimately people in general should be more tolerant because I think that whether he kneels or not kneels, it's not an affront to any individual or anything like that. It's not like he's saying he hates America or anything like that.
Right.
He's just trying to make a statement about, what his beliefs are. But I do think at the same time, there's other ways he could have voiced that.
Agreed. So tell me about your early childhood in music and your chore that it became growing up, so to speak.
Well, it started with a friend of mine in early middle school, that I lost all. Actually, I was like kind of like a jock when I was in elementary school. I hung out with all the jocks, and then one summer I got fat, and they all kind of like left, and I found myself with no friends, and then I ended up hooking up with this one of my best friends who played guitar, and I always wanted to play his guitar and stuff like that. Couldn't put it down, and from there I just had a need to know. So it went from just picking up the guitar to taking 3 and 4 lessons a week, including like piano and voice at one time and violin. And then I went to college and got a bachelor's degree in classical guitar performance. But I've always been that type of person that's needed to know about the structure of things. And for me, it's kind of like this interesting observation of sound and frequency and stuff, and how it comes together in a musical way for people. what makes a sound musical to somebody,
right.
you know, and why would, for instance, why would a harmony, what makes a harmony sound good as opposed to bad, and why is that? You know? So that kind of stuff is interesting to me as well.
Yeah, I studied music in college as well, and I'm a drummer, but I learned piano and guitar and all that stuff. The thing I can never do is freaking sing.
Oh, right.
To save my life, and the professor like, you can hear the notes, you can write a perfect fifth, you can write, you know, minor third, but you can't sing it.
Right.
It's the damnedest thing. Any thoughts on that? No matter how much I practice, I can never hit it.
But that is an interesting one to me. I mean, I do believe, you know, there are always people who are born with better attributes towards something than others, but it always balances out. You know, I'm sure you have your strengths as well, right? The one thing is I'm not a firm believer that either you can or you cannot. Sometimes it can be developed, you know. Because I remember, you know, early on, you know, someone telling me, oh, you can't sing, you know, you can't do this. And I never really worried about it because I was a guitarist, and I always considered my guitarist in the first place. But I think I do all right behind the mic, you know, when I'm singing backups and stuff. I work really hard for that stuff. So I think that was developed over time. I also think the same thing about attaining perfect pitch. You know, I find that my pitch, my conception of, you know, where the pitch is when I hear a song or when I hear something else is getting much more accurate over time. Whereas a lot of times you hear either somebody has perfect pitch or they don't.
Right.
So, and one of my own little pet peeves, funny, oddly enough, is I don't like calling it perfect pitch because that doesn't relate to what's really going on. To me, I think somebody who can recall pitch and know what it is has a good pitch memory.
Right.
You know? So, anyways, side note.
No, it's true. There were like certain notes I could hear, you know, that were obvious to me. The fifth, the tritone were obvious.
Right.
I think it was the minor sixth was like somewhere over the rainbow. That little things like.
Well, that's major sixth.
Major sixth. Okay, that I could pick that up and go, okay, that I knew what that was, going up, going down. But the other stuff, I just singing it was just the weirdest thing.
Bro, wait. Did you say something? Oh, my Bonnie is major sixth that they would use to train major sixth, and somewhere over the rainbow is probably a minor sixth. I can't think of the interval off the top of my head. But.
All right, well, let's test you real quick then. You put
Yeah.
me in a weird place. Name the modes in order.
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
Come on then.
All right, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian.
Perfect. In order. Look at that. Did you have to make up a little acronym for it to figure it out when you were younger? It just came to
I
you?
just practiced the hell out of it. You know?
Gotcha. So when you bring a song to the band, what happens next? Do you bring it in complete format or?
Pretty complete, yeah. But there may be, you know, what's going to happen, I think, is there'll probably be a little bit more on this one, a little bit more rearranging. You know, like we'll bring a song in that'll probably be fairly complete, and then maybe have a secondary round of ideas to come in to augment it. That's what I envision this second CD being.
If you had to isolate 3 guitar players from your past, I mean, people you played with or people that inspired you, who would those 3 be?
That's, again, an easy one. It's Paco de Lucia, Jason Becker, of course, and Paul Gilbert.
Becker's an amazing one.
He's amazing in guitar.
Still doing it.
And yeah, in every way.
Right. I actually got to share the stage with Paul Gilbert one time.
Wow.
Some friends of mine were playing at the Troubadour years ago, and they got up and did Tonight We're Gonna Rock You by Spinal Tap, and he played drums. I got to get up and sing background vocals.
Nice.
So just pretty cool. Him and his folding shoes.
He's the only guy I've ever gotten up to and actually geeked out on. Like,
yeah.
I don't usually geek out over people or anything like that. I went up to him and was like a total fanboy.
Really?
Like, yeah, it was stupid.
He's a giant too.
He's tall and lanky. Yeah, alien.
So if you take those 3 out of the mix, who else? Any current players that you admire?
Yeah. I really like. Well, I don't want to plug him too hard, but he's a great guitarist. Jake Dreyer, who's a former student of mine, but has put in so much work on his own that he's a great player. Brandon Ellis, who's been in Arsis and done some other things, and he's a smoking player. Who are some of the Marshall Harrison, which is just an insane economy picker. Like, yeah, love his economy picking is just next to him. It's so fluid sounding and such, you know, so open with, you know, showing how he achieves what he does. It's great. There's one other, God, I should remember his name right now, but I can't. Anyway, I'm always seeing great players on YouTube. Like, it's...
We didn't have that growing up.
No,
we didn't have anything like that. It was tape trading back in the day.
Yeah. It's really, I don't think guitarists or, you know, people of, you know, kids today realize how many advantages they have compared to what we had. But at the same time, it's still an even playing field because every other kid has that same advantage.
Exactly.
For the most part,
It's on their freaking phones. It's not just on the laptop or the desktop at home.
Exactly.
You know, it's a whole new ballgame for everybody.
Yeah. So in my mind, it ultimately can only raise the bar of playing and musicianship, you know, across the bar. So
I get inspired by watching it. I saw there's a cool documentary actually on Netflix called A Drummer's Dream.
Oh.
And it's got like Mike Mangini's in it, El Negro's in it. Like the percussionists play with Dizzy Gillespie and Santana and stuff like that, and they'd go out to this lake out in Canada for like 40 students.
Right.
And it's like a little week-long course out there, and just the terminology they speak and about how they play what they do and the tones they get, and they're excited about this stuff and teaching these kids how to do it. It's just amazing to watch and see that connection. Because there's a bigger connection to fans now than 20, 30, 10 years ago even like that.
Absolutely.
How do you appreciate that format, that people can be instant contact with you now?
I do, you know, but I'm not that steeped in it. Like I'm not on my phone. I don't go on Facebook that often. I try and do Instagram as much as I can, you know, but at the end of the day, to me, it's like I want to focus on my instrument and I want to focus on, you know, making things happen for the show and whatever it may be. And, you know, hopefully I'm out there enough for people to, you know, to feel like they get a feel for who I am as a person, but I don't think I do it nearly enough. So
some people are just social horse when it comes to that, and they're everything. Here's what I ate for breakfast. Here's what I pooped out later on.
But it's definitely somewhat of a necessity today.
Any advice for the struggling musician or the young musician?
Well, I would say definitely in today's climate, just love what you do. You know, take any opportunity you can, and don't you know, don't sell yourself short. Don't sit there and say, oh, you know, I'm not going to audition for that because I wouldn't get it or anything like that. Do the audition. Even if you don't get whatever it is you're going after, you're going to grow from that experience. And ultimately, again, love what you do because it's, you know, it's definitely not the easiest thing to do to make it in music, and it's not like a guaranteed path at all.
By no means.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for the conversation, man. Totally appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you.